Welcome to Kingdom News, where you'll hear how God is influencing our region locally and globally. See how the Bible is relevant to today's news and learn how you can be involved with local faith events. Now here's your host, Tony Bosserman.
And greetings, brothers and sisters in Christ. Hope your day's going well out there. Kingdom News is sponsored by Epic Bible College. Well, we're ready for a break. We're going to go to Citizen Link, and afterwards I'll speak with Dr. Richard Blackaby and his daughter Carrie Blackaby about their new book entitled Customized Parenting in a Trending World. So if you're a parent looking for some tips on raising your children, you want to hear this, here's Citizen Link. And welcome back to the second half of Kingdom News. Joining us tonight is Dr. Richard Blackaby. And he served as the president of Blackaby Ministries International since July 2006. He's the oldest child of Henry and Marilyn Blackaby. And Carrie is Richard's daughter and Henry's oldest granddaughter. She holds a BA and MFA, and she helped him work on the book as well. But we're going to be speaking with him tonight. Welcome, Dr. Richard Blackaby.
It's good to be with you.
So your book, Customized Parenting in a Trending World, what led you to that title and that approach?
Well, everywhere I go, I have parents talk with me and express all kinds of concerns about their kids. And the interesting thing is that we often hear parents telling their kids, now don't conform to peer pressure. And yet the parents in their own parenting techniques often are conforming to the pressure of all the parents around them at the same time. Well,
that's logical. So why, what do you hope readers are going to get out of your book as they read it?
Well, when I talk with parents, as I talk with them, it becomes clear that in their spirit, they sometimes just instinctively know that their child's struggling. Maybe the Spirit of God's working in their heart and telling them, hey, your kid's in trouble. But the parent thinks, but all I know is to parent this way, or that's what everybody says you do with a child like this. And I've just often, as I've had those conversations, encouraged them to say, listen, I think in your spirit it's not working. Don't wait until your child is in full-fledged rebellion or addiction or other things, and then look back and say, I knew I should have done something. When you have that sense that something's not right, trust your instincts as a parent and take action. Even if no one else is doing what you're doing, God may lead you to do some pretty crazy things that it may seem, but if it saves your child and helps them prosper, then it'll certainly all be worth it.
Sure. Well, there's, of course, a lot of books that have been written about parenting. So what makes your book different? What issues and ideas did you grapple with that maybe led to something unique?
Well, that's a great question. Two things. I think one is that I wrote it with my daughter, and I've read a lot of books on parenting by parents who tell you what they did, and it sounds great, but often I think to myself, I'd love to hear what the child has to say about that.
Yeah.
In this book, and then I've heard books written by children that tell all the angst in their memoirs about how terrible their parents were.
Yeah.
And so here's a chance to put them both together and say, from a parenting side, this is the issue we faced, and this is how we worked on it. And then from the child side to say, and this is what I was seeing, and this is what I was appreciating. And the other big thing is that we just push back. We sort of take a rebellious approach and say, listen, there's just a lot of stuff out there that people are telling you that you should do, that's just standard parenting ideology that may not be right for you. And so what we really do is just go chapter by chapter and look at some of the most basic kinds of parenting techniques and counsel, and we push back on a lot of them.
Yeah, so did your wife, was she involved at all in the writing?
Oh, she was. In fact, most of the good stuff that we came up with in parenting came from her. She's just too modest to sit down and do a lot of the writing, but we did insert her. She adds, I guess you could call them tweets or short little notes throughout the book, just some nuggets of wisdom throughout. And so the really unique thing is that you've got a dad and a daughter that are writing as the primary authors, and then you've got the mom inserting wisdom throughout and keeping us straight. But she's the biggest rebel of us all. And when you've got a parent who's a rebel, it's hard as a child to rebel against that.
Sure. Well, give our listeners maybe a little summary of one of the major points you make in the book.
Well, for instance, one thing is just saying, be careful about the rules that you set for your kids. We actually only had 3 rules in our house. And a lot of parents think, well, I'm so worried about my child rebelling and getting into trouble that I'm going to, as a good parent, I'm going to surround them with rules and curfews and restrictions and do all I can to try to keep them from getting into trouble.
Sure.
And, we actually said you're actually going to work against yourself doing that. The more rules you have, oftentimes the less character you've got in your child. And so focus on the inside, and you'll discover you don't need that many rules. And, another one was just telling our kids it's okay to quit. A lot of parents think that's just horrible parenting if your child quits something. We found actually that it empowered our kids to take control of their life, and we didn't want them to quit every day, but some of the most significant moments in our kids' life came when they realized something wasn't working in their life, and instead of just being forced to continue on anyway, they took action. They found alternatives. And so when you tell parents it's okay to let your kids quit, oftentimes you get this huge look of relief on
Sure.
their face because they thought they were being horrible parents when they even considered the possibility.
And, of course, every book has its critics, so how do you respond to maybe those who disagree with some of the things you say?
Well, I'm sure they will, because there's a lot of people who've been trained in pretty classical sort of parenting modes, and so that they believe that the world is tough and your kids need to figure that out sooner than later, that they need to work and not worry so much about the play, and so we what we try to say is not all conventional wisdom is bad. Sometimes it may be right for your child, but and so I hope people will just hear us to say we're not trying to say throw out all the rules, but sometimes you need to take a really careful look to say, but is it working for my child? And if conventional wisdom isn't, it's not. Most things aren't sacred. It's just the way that people typically do things, and so think them through. And you might be doing your child a huge favor. And we don't expect everyone to agree with us. We just want people to take control of their own
Sure.
parenting and do whatever it takes so that their child thrives.
All right, we only have about a minute, but does your book speak to any age parents of kids? Does it kind of take somebody through toddlerhood all the way through, or
It does, yeah. Okay. In fact, of course, parents of preschoolers, they're really concerned about parenting, but parents of teenagers and college students, we take them right up through there to say, don't think your parenting is over because your child turned 16 or even 18. That may be when they need you as much as any time. And your parenting has to grow as your children grow. You may be an awesome preschool parent, but that being a preschool parent may not help your teenager. Your parenting has to grow along the way as well.
Well, having been the parent of 6 children, I can certainly affirm that. And every kid's different, too. The approach you take with one, you can't take with the other. Hey, thanks for joining us tonight, Dr. Richard Blackaby.
Oh, it's great to be with you.
All right. And his book is entitled Customized Parenting in a Trending World. And you get a copy at Amazon or at Blackaby Ministries. You can go to blackaby.net. It's blackaby.net. That's blackaby.net. Thanks for listening to another edition of Kingdom News. We're on every night from 6 to 6:30. Please do tell your friends about us. We try to give you the biblical perspective on the nightly news.